Hey everyone, Scorp here. I want to show three other decks that I could have used for the low deck cost challenge, where all the cards were 25 deck cost or lower, except for leaders. Although tried to use the low level leaders for these anyways. Just one of these decks couldn't do it because I couldn't get a leader for it, and you'll see why in a little bit. Um, But this first deck, this is a mystical elf deck, except it's missing the mystical elves. And it's also missing darkness approaches, which actually it turns out none of those cards are actually necessary. So you're gonna probably see some similarities in the cards in these decks, in some of the spell and traps, but might as well go through this deck real quick. Unhappy Maiden for Mystical Elf Fusions. Weather Control changes field for me, and it's also usable for some fusions. Key Mace, usable for fusions. It also goes into Dark Witch, and has a decent effect, so great card. Happy Lever is what we're going to try to buff in this deck, and it's super strong. Wing Egg Elf, again, Elf Fusions, going into Mystical Elf. Ray and Temperature, these are 25 deck cost, scarily high for how weak these things actually are, but these are the other card we're going to try to buff. So I was trying to do 25 or lower, and I'm not doing plants because I'd save that for like 10 or lower, because or like 15 or lower, because you can, and then you're just going to play plants because they're just that low. Hashiningen, more buffs and fusion fodder. Dancing Elves, elves for the fusions. One Goblin Secret Remedy for healing. Wing Trumpeter for increased strength. And then a bunch of equips and Cheers the Mermaid because it's super strong. So that's deck 1. Deck 2, this is the one I had to break the rule on the deck leader because Sea Serpents don't have a 25 or lower cost creature. Simple as that, and this is a deck that makes Sea Serpents. So you fuse a dragon with a fish, and you make Karyushin. We can't go into Aqua Dragon because we don't have access to level 5 waters with these restrictions. But Karyushin is pretty good, and it changes the field for us, and we have buffs for it. So going through the deck, baby dragons because they're pretty decent. Yamatano Dragon Scrolls. They have versatility. You can go into Yamadrons if you need to go against somebody that likes water fields, like a Shizu. Petite Dragon, Wicked Dragon with Escort Head. Just a whole bunch of dragons. And then a whole bunch of fish, root waters, because they change terrain. And here's just a bunch of cheap fish. And then triple Change Slime. Change Slime is a really good addition to any Aqua deck because it basically goes 1-for-1 with something. Aqua Chorus to make our cards stronger. Dragon Treasures because they work on Sea Serpents. Power of Kaishin to power up our water creatures. High Tides to power up our Sea Serpents. A Curse Breaker and some Tears. Basically, just deal with our opponents. Again, still under 600 deck cost, not too bad. And now last up, couldn't get away from it. I made a Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon deck. So you fuse a 1200 plus dragon with a rock, and then you fuse that with a thunder, and you make Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon. And then you equip it with a bunch of equips, and you kill your opponent with it. Simple. Yeah. So 9 dragons that are 1200 plus. These are the only ones that are 25 deck cost or lower. Root waters to change the field. And they can also be fused into Karyushins with those dragons if you want to, if you need to make Karyushin, and that's an okay card if you have to use it, or you can just make more water field with it. Unfortunately, that can't go into a Sea King Dragon because we don't have waters, and then Sea King Dragon would go into Twin-Headed, so unfortunate there. 9 Thunders, doesn't matter what they are. I chose a bunch of cheap ones for the theme. Rocks, I picked Ancient Jars, Hanawas, because they're cheap. Ancient Jar has broken effects, and Muka Muka because even if it's 25 deck cost and it's barely fitting in, this thing's broken, so 3 of them. And then 9 equips that work on Twin-Headeds, and then a Tears of the Mermaid because I couldn't fit anything else. So I'm going to go play a game with each of these decks. So we'll play Bolt Penguin. Well, let's just pick somebody kind of fun to pick on. These guys aren't really fun to pick on. Oh, Necromancer's fun to pick on. Unfortunately, because we're going for triple fusions, our hands are going to kind of be bricky with this deck. This is going to be the most non-consistent of all of these decks. Okay. That's a good enough thing for me to get Darkhold. I'm kind of cool with that. Also, against Wasteland terrain, we can just play Stoned Ease. Also, we can just fuse the hard way by going through Thunder Dragons. Now, unfortunately, if I draw a rock, I kind of just messed myself up. But we can finally draw what I'm looking for. And show off how this deck actually works. So for pretty cheap, I've played a Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon. And you thought we could get away from Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon decks. I don't really like fusing Thunder Dragons this way, but sometimes you do what you gotta. That's probably a trap. Ooh, let's see. Ew, Fiend's Hand. Not nice. I'm not going to have enough summoning power to do that. I don't like this. Oh well. We're going to lose a Twin-Headed. I technically will have lethal next turn, though. Or I won't. Okay, that's fine. I'll have a lot of damage next turn, so we'll just do this. That Fiend hand is stuck in attack mode now. We'll just do this. Because that'll change more terrain to water for me. To drink water since I've been recording videos for like 2 straight hours. Kind of starts to catch up to you. There we go. We got one more of these fusions in. Definitely not as consistent as a regular twin-headed deck. But for beating up the AI, it should be good enough to get through the game. And you can also add and remove cards as you go, of course, because there are some cards like Dharma Cannon you could put in here for certain things, so... Okay. Swap decks to one of the other ones. Okay, Mystical Elf Turbo. Well, not quite Turbo. This is just an elf deck. This is going to be a really brutal deck to use against Bones. I'm sorry, Necromancer. This is not going to be nice for you. Good thing for me, I have fairies as a deck leader. Fairies kind of just instantly destroy zombies, so this isn't going to be much of a contest. Unfortunately for him. I don't need Goblin Seeker Remedy in this. Oh, we also gain 250 life points every turn. Honestly, this would be one of the more brutal decks that you could go through the game with. Although all of these decks are basically designed to be pretty brutal. For your opponents. Goodbye. Oh, you're spellbound, not destroyed. Okay. I don't need this card. I do want to fuse for a Dark Witch, though, so... This isn't going to be enough yet. So we'll just wait until we can make it slightly bigger. Just throw this out first. We have to conserve our buffs since we don't have Darkness Approaches and can't go infinite in this deck. We can just go most of the way with this deck towards being super powerful. But I mean, this is the power of fairies. And even if he Dark Holes us, we have our leader power to negate most of it. So at 4,300, there's like literally nothing in the entire game that, besides like Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, that can actually get over this Happy Lover, besides a Jiraigamo and a Ray and Temperature. And so unless you go against those cards, you are stronger than anything your opponent can play. Don't ask me why this fusion works, it just does. Well, now I have a 4,600 attack Battering Ram. Although, against this guy, there could be some complications, so... unfortunately, Fiend's Hand can still kill our creatures. We're also going to get Spellbound repeatedly doing this, so... yeah, this is going to be kind of unfortunate. But we'll get there. Ooh, only one of those is a monster. We also have Mystical Elves back here, which, if I have to, I can use them to go and win this fight, so... good. That's a lot of damage. And it's game. Excellent. So, as you can see, I mean, of course we're going to obliterate a zombie player with fairies. That's just kind of how it is. But we made a really big beat stick. And because of it, we just completely crushed the game. Okay, and now for the last deck. One of the more odd ones, this is going to be Sea Serpents. Not how I would play Sea Serpents. There are many ways to play Sea Serpents. But I mean, this is a decent way to play Sea Serpents. I'm going to actually play this against Keith. He's not going to like this deck very much. I haven't really drawn anything that I'm really happy to draw yet, but that's a barrel dragon. Mechanical Chaser and a Machine King, huh? I have drawn too many dragons. Go away. This is the part where your creature dies, because there's a 2,000 attack point swing. Now he's probably going to flip the barrel dragon. No, okay. Rude. Not that it matters too much, our deck is super cheap. Oh. Unfortunately, this isn't going to be lethal, but we might as well just pack in as much damage as we can. And put him at 100. What did you just move? A slot machine and you didn't attack me with it? Sir. Yeah, machines really don't like this deck. But there are many choices besides just playing Neko Gals. They were just one of the decks that I kind of wanted to play because I actually like playing Neko Gals and Beast Warriors. There are many other decks you could try to make like this. I believe a Garvis deck would work pretty well. You could make a Flower Wolf deck if you wanted to go towards beasts. You also have I mean, I'll just go down the list of things that you could do. Dragons, you can't really play bigger dragons, but you can use them for fusions like I did. Let's see. There is a Cosmo Queen deck you could play. I did consider playing like a Dark Elf into Cosmo Queen fusion deck, and that would be pretty much all females too for the guy that really wanted an all-female run. Just like, the problem with an all-female run is it's just like, okay. I can either play just a bunch of Cosmo Queens and a bunch of Dark Spellcasters like Dark Magician Girl and just run people over, or I can have a hard time with it because females need things to fuse with. Otherwise, that's probably all you can really do with spellcasters for a low deck cost run. Zombies would be super easy to go into Pumpkins. Or Wood Remains. Your pick. It would be super easy, especially with plants. So, zombies plus plants. Nobody would be surprised. Zombies are super cheap. Warriors, can we just not play Warriors? I don't think there's anything I'd ever want to do with Warriors. Beast Warriors, I already did one. As I said, Beasts, you could probably play Garvis or Flower Wolf pretty easily, so Either of those two, in my opinion, would be good. Like, you could put in Nuatoris and Drollbirds and Karamas and do a bunch of fusions for Garvis, and that would go probably pretty well. Fiends. How much does Job Change Marriage cost? You could play Clowns plus Job Change Mirror. And Reptiles and go into Summon Skulls and Tunes, I guess. Be an odd deck. Maybe you could make it work. You could also do some of the other fusions. Zera the Manse wouldn't be, but you can't do Fiend's Mirror, but you could do Chakra, so that might work. I'd probably avoid Fiends. They're going to be slightly out of your price range. We did a fairy deck. I did consider doing an insect deck, but the problem is I kind of made some cards a little too expensive in this mod. You'd use 3 Minotaur Bugs, 3 Gale Dogras. You'd use like 3 Petite Moths and 3 Larva of Moths. 3 Cocoon of Evolutions. Maybe you could do it. But you wouldn't be able to just cheese it with Pupa of Moth, which would be really, really cheesy. And you couldn't use Jiraigamo, so you'd be missing out 3 of the best, actually 4 of the best insect cards because you couldn't play Pugum either. Also, I do want to know, why is Pugum 8 stars and Great Moths 8 stars? Like, why is this the same number of summoning power as this? They have the same effect. This one just has 900 more attack. And an extra 500 defense to boot. Just my rant. Don't play dinos. Reptiles, you probably could fuse them with dinosaurs and stuff for some sort of deck. I would not. Fish, we already said what you can do with them. Same with sea serpents. Machines are way too expensive for this. You might splash a Dharma Cannon in, but that's about it. I made a twin-headed deck for Thunders. For Aquas, you can probably go into Turtle Birds. And if you really want to, you can do 4-card Twin-Headeds and 4-card Aqua Dragons if you wanted. You could go Aqua Pyro, or you could go Turtle into a Winged Beast, into Dragon, into Thunder. And that would give you Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon. You could also do that to go... you could do the fish into the dragon first, and then you could do a second fusion of... You would either do water into Pyro, or you could do water into... Or you could do turtle into Winged Beast, and fuse into Aqua Dragons. If you wanted to do it that way, to 4-card fusions. Otherwise, they're going to get splashed in for field change to, like, the decks that I made. Change Slime's really good for this. Let's see here. Pyros, I guess you can't play Molten Behemoth, but you could definitely make a Flame Cerberus Turbo deck. That would be super easy. Beasts plus Pyros. Super cheap. Definitely would work. Let's see. Rocks, I already showed you guys. You can go into THTDs. You could... I don't think you can quite put together an Ancient Jar deck, but maybe you could try. That would be pretty mean, but I would not recommend it. But, I mean, Muka Muka is already so good for this, so... You could also do Mystical Sand Turbo or something. So, or Stone D Turbo, or just go into the twin-headeds like I did. All of those work. Of course, plants are absolutely absurd for this. You could do pretty much a less than 15 deck cost per card pretty easily with them. That's what you'd use Fiends for, honestly. And then Immortals, you have one Immortal that is under 25 deck cost, so don't. I guess you could probably make a pretty nasty burn deck with this and Midnight Fiends. Please don't do that. That's just cruel and unusual to the AI. So yeah, that's all of your options for that playthrough. There's a lot of them. So thank you all for watching and have a nice day.